I'm going to preface this with the fact that I started this video before the big Terran R announcement. The reveal really emphasized a lot of the things I like about Relativity, so that's good. And as a Relativity Space stan, I was in an immense pleasure. So should you take Relativity Space seriously? Well, ignoring Betteridge's law of headlines, I think you should. If you didn't know already, Relativity is the company 3D printing the vast majority of the rocket, up to around 90 to 95%. 3D printing is already used by a lot of launch companies, mostly for the complex components in the engines, where it excels. Relativity is the first ones to try and apply it for the majority of the rocket. This is ambitious, some may call it dumb or stupid, but I believe in them. In 2019 they made a pretty big change to the AL1 engine, upgrading the thrust from 17 kilonewtons to 23 kilonewtons, and switching the engine cycle from expander to gas generator. This was in response to the Iridium wanting a larger fairing for their satellites, and this resulted in a fairing that was double the volume, requiring a more powerful rocket. And you might be like, well, that's a pretty big setback, right? No, a year later, despite coronavirus and multiple tropical storms, they did a full thrust static fire. The entire design changed for the rocket only took 4 months, or 6 months. That is undeniably impressive. At this stage, they've made over 40 AL1 engines and conducted 500 hot fires. Also, quick tangent, those AL1 plumes are so pretty, oh my god. But 3D printing rocket engines at this stage of the game is fairly conventional. Complex components with hundreds of parts really like powder bed 3D printing. What isn't conventional is them 3D printing their tanks and structures like the fairing. So why 3D print the tanks? I see a lot of skepticism about 3D printing the tanks because, surely bending the steel sheets into shape is quicker and cheaper. Well, bending steel sheets isn't as easy as it's made out to be. It requires more machines compared to 3D printing, as well as being more labour intensive even if it can be manufactured faster. Some advantages in manufacturing, like the ease of producing bulkheads with 3D printing, combined with a reduced part count, might end up meaning overall it does end up being cost competitive. Furthering this, it allows for more complicated structures, being shown off with Terran R. This combined with the better reliability overall because of the reduced part count, as well as the reduced supply chain, that's all pretty good. So why are other companies pursuing? Why is it only Relativity Space doing it? Basically, it's much harder to start with additive manufacturing because it's at a lower tech readiness level. Back in 2017, Relativity's first printer could only print for 5 minutes at a time before having to stop, and it would occasionally catch fire. Not good. Thermal expansion and contraction makes tanks deform during the print, which would cause issues. Mistakes can happen during the print, which would require constant due diligence to keep a print on track, and you just have to fix it if mistakes do happen. And then these are just large development charges with making these large-scale prints, and most companies already have a full plate with the launch vehicle development itself. But Relativity has taken it on. In 2019, they did their first day-long print, up from the 5 minutes in 2017. Now in 2021, they're doing week-long prints. And in the search of the information with the Terran R drop, a little tidbit in a CNBC article sipped by everyone. They're finishing up development on a printhead which will over double the print speed. Sorry, what? They're doubling their rate of production of stages with this upgrade. That's crazy. When do you ever do that? 3D printing the fairing enables them to have a lot of customizability for the customers. This was really emphasized with the whole doubling the fairing volume for Firesat. But more recently, we saw the Lockheed Martin cryogenic fluid management demonstration launch contract go to them, which was driven by the customization of the fairing for this payload. And for reference, Lockheed Martin would have much rather gone with ABL, a bigger partner of theirs, but Relativity was just better. From a validation point of view, they have some serious people committing to them. They have a bunch of SpaceX veterans signing up, Tim Buzzer, Zachary Dunn, Josh Brosh, David Geiger. These are people who have their pick of the industry jobs to work at, and they're not going to go to a company who they won't think will survive a couple of years. They think Relativity has what it takes to make it. They've also raised $1.3 billion from private investment. That's fairly impressive for any company, much less one that's really yet to fly a launch vehicle. Although Relativity Space is kind of the definition of venture capital bait. They have signed several launch contracts with a variety of customers. They're 85% done with the Terran 1 that they aim to launch by the end of this year. Compared to its direct competitors, Terran 1 is ahead by most metrics, but as always, the proof is in the pudding, or in this case, when it is reliably launching payloads, and this remains to be seen. Okay, video over. I'm just going to have some stuff I found interesting about Relativity go up on the screen now. Yeah, that's good. You can go now. Okay, bye.